and I flipped, and now I'm being super aggressive, and I'm the one that's resisting. And for them, it was resist, resist, resist. And then just recently, it's almost like they just got tired of doing the we're in the resistance, we're going to fight everything. And now you hear Cenk's big thing is like, we got to unite the populist right and the populist left, and here's this area and that area where we can agree. But
Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk is the latest in a growing list of progressive pundits, podcasters, and YouTubers to be calling out Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian on their apparent shift to the right. We're going to take a look at Kyle Kulinski on the Humanist Report. I'm going to share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it.
So on the subject of independent media, I'm dying to know your thoughts on TYT, Ana Kasparian. So I'm not going to put you in a place where you have to attack them. But from my perspective, I feel like it's sad to see this because we've all been in this space for a while, and we've seen this 100 times. Dave Rubin, Jimmy Dore, what's his name? Russell Brand, where little by little you start to, you pick one or two issues and then you start buddying up with the right. And I see it with TYT and Ana Kasparian, and I'm curious what your thoughts on that are.
Before I answer that, I'm curious your thoughts on, do you think it's going to go fully in that direction? Like, do you think it's genuinely going to end up like a Jimmy Dore or a Dave Rubin?
Yes, I do. If you asked me this a year ago, I would say probably not. I was in that position where you were in probably with like Joe Rogan, where it's like, no, I think that you should try to reach these people. I think that maybe there's just a genuine agreement. But to me, with time, it's become apparent that like both Cenk and Ana, they just don't want to listen to good faith criticism. And, we all kind of like talked about this in different ways, like on Leftist Mafia, for example. And what really struck me is how, they just disregarded the arguments that we made. It was not in bad faith, even though they don't want to, acknowledge that. It wasn't in bad faith, but they said it was in bad faith. And for me, I think that moment that really like clicked with me, like, no, it's over, was when they went after Emma Vigeland, because Emma Vigeland, they know her more than they know us. I was part of TYT Network. You were part of TYT Network, but we didn't have that close relationship. I never was at TYT Studio. I think you were only there a couple of times. So like there was that degree of separation between us. But just to see them disregard the criticisms of the left. I mean, we all criticize each other. You and I have had debates like in DMs on Twitter about fucking specific healthcare bills and shit like that.
I think he's right. I'm not sure where else they can go, but to continue on to the right. It seems like so many people on the left are upset with them. I mean, I'm seeing it on my channel where people love people like Kyle Kulinski and Francesca Fiorentini, but anytime I post a video that is even Cenk or Ana saying things that I think a lot on the left really believe, like if they're talking about Medicare for all or something like that, people just say, we don't want to hear what they have to say. So I don't know where really Ana and Cenk can go now, but then to move to the right.
But I never thought, oh, Kyle's a fucking grifter. And I don't think you thought the same about me. It was just disagreements that we were hashing out. And even like, I said something about Wolfpack on my show, and Cenk had reached out to me privately and said, hey, the people at Wolfpack think that you got this wrong. And so I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember what it was in particular, but I brought on one of the directors of Wolfpack on my show to correct the record and talk about Wolfpack. And it's like, it's one of those things where we're all going to eat shit. We're human beings. We don't have massive, production crews. We kind of just get on camera and we say what we think. And so there are going to be times where we trip on our own dicks. We have to eat shit sometimes, and our peers are the best people to hold us accountable. Like if some random YouTube comment says, hey, Mike, fuck you. You said this. You're a terrible, terrible person. I'm going to disregard that. But if Kyle reaches out to me and says, hey, Mike, I think that you really messed up here, that's when I'm going to think, oh, okay, well, if Kyle's saying this, he's been doing this for a long time. I respect him. He respects me. So that, to me, is why I think TYT might actually just be straight up gone. Because they've tuned out all of the people that were closest to them, that respected them, that they respected. And now it's just right-wingers, Glenn Beck, PBD. And it's not a bad thing to go on these shows at all, going on Temple and whatnot. But it's what you do when you're on these shows, right? Like you were on PBD, and you criticize them, you challenge them.
Yeah, the whole thing was a debate. The whole thing was a debate.
The entire fucking thing was a debate. Mm-hmm. And this was the same criticism that we had with Jimmy Dore when he started going on Tucker Carlson. Like, I don't care that you go on Tucker Carlson. I'm not trying to like police where you go. You're a grown man. But if I were on Tucker Carlson, I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm going to criticize him for the white supremacy that he's espousing. And I don't see that. I see them going on these shows, attacking the left. And to me, it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe 5 years ago, I would still be more charitable. A year ago, I'd be more charitable. But I feel like we've seen this show so many times. It's a rerun. And I actually think they're less subtle. Like, I think Ana is less subtle than Dave Rubin's grift at this point in time.
It's almost like they had kind of the opposite reaction as me. So, like, in 2016, it looked to me like they were fully in resistance mode, where it was like,
yeah,
man, we're going to fight on everything. We're going to fight tooth and nail on everything. Fuck Trump in every imaginable way, even to the point where, you know, there were some areas where I disagree with them on like Russiagate type stuff. I was like,
yeah, same.
I don't agree with these particular criticisms that they're making, but it seemed like they were in full on resistance mode, and they maintained that all the way up seemingly until recently. And then the mindset. So in the same way as like I was trying to like find bridges or areas of agreement from 2016 on, and then eventually I realized, shit, this didn't work. And I flipped, and now I'm being super aggressive, and I'm the one that's resisting. And for them, it was resist, resist, resist. And then just recently, it's almost like they just got tired of doing the we're in the resistance, we're going to fight everything. And now you hear Cenk's big thing is like, we got to unite the populist right and the populist left, and here's this area and that area where we can agree. But what I would say to Cenk in reaction to that is, it's not.
Before Kyle gets into this next part, I wanted to address them talking about, Kyle and Mike here talking about Cenk and Ana going on these various right-wing shows. What really stood out to me was there was a stark contrast with Cenk's recent appearance on PBD's show, where he was talking about finding common ground and, you know, let's wait and see what Trump does and blah, blah, blah. When he went on PBD's show a year or so ago and was talking about what a moron Trump is, and he bankrupted all these businesses and he's a con man, just really laid into him. And nothing's changed with Trump. You know, I seriously doubt that Cenk Uygur has really had an epiphany and has decided, oh, you know, I was really wrong about Trump being a con man and wrong about him being a moron and a terrible business person and all this kind of stuff. It's just what he's saying that has changed. And to me, that's what's really disappointing, is that he really laid into these right-wing hosts back then. And now, as Cenk used to say, he's playing patty cakes with them.
Like, they're completely and utterly full of shit. Every single one of them. That's even the, you know, and God bless Bernie. I love him. I don't think Bernie's a sellout by any stretch of the imagination, but his strategy on this has been like, I agree with Trump that we should cap credit card interest rates at 10%. And I agree with Elon Musk and Doge that we need to cut the Pentagon. And he's putting that out there. But here's the thing, Bernie. They're not going to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. They're not going to cut the Pentagon. And then when they don't do those things, all of those MAGA accounts are going to pretend like they never supported capping credit card interest rates at 10%. They're going to say they never supported cutting the Pentagon, and they're going to go wherever Trump wants them to go, because MAGA is effectively a cult. And so what I would say to Bernie is, I know where your heart is. I know you're trying to do what you think is the right thing and get them in a gotcha and hypocrisy burn them and say, see, they were lying, etc. But they're immune to the hypocrisy burns. And so the real strategy is to upfront say, look, these people are full of shit. They're full of shit. They don't mean a goddamn word of what they say. And I will put in the same category, I'd put, you know, the PBDs of the world and the Tim Pools of the world and the Joe Rogans of the world. Like, what do you think Rogan, like when Trump starts doing objectively horrible shit, do you think Rogan is going to be on his show like, man, I really disagree with this? Like he did back in the day. Remember when the child separation policy was happening and Rogan had on Duncan Trussell and he went on like a pro-immigrant rant where he was saying, yeah. And do you think that's going to happen this time around? No. He endorsed the guy who said he wants to do a mass deportation. And if Trump does do a mass deportation, Rogan's either going to say nothing about it or just defend it, right? And so I think that's the point, is like, as we've been saying, there are way more allies who are liberals or who are just independents than there are the populist right. I'm of the belief at this point, the populist right is fake. It's not real. They will flip on a dime to go where Trump wants them to go. And by the way, I know I'm right about this because, again, we have the first 4 years. I mean, already Trump has axed Lena Khan. Lena Khan was like the example of, oh, if they mean this and they're actually going to be populist, they will keep Lena Khan at the FTC. And they said, oh, J.D. Vance had said some kind words about Lena Khan. Maybe Trump will keep Lena Khan. And then we learned just last week, he's not keeping her. He's replacing Lena Khan with somebody who says, I want to stop the FTC's war on big business. So how many times do they have to fail this test before we call it for what it is? J.D. Vance pretends like he's a populist. He's not even in favor of raising the minimum wage. He dodged a question on that during the campaign. He's not even in favor of the PRO Act. He said he supports the $6,000 child tax credit, and he didn't show up for the vote on the $6,000 child tax credit, right? So it's just, I'm hoping, like I think a lot of people are, for just when something really bad happens, I'm hoping that there's some sort of an about face, right? And that TYT goes, hey, they didn't do the thing that I thought they might do, so now I'm on the warpath against them too. So I hope that that's the case. But we'll just have to see if that's the case. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to hold my breath on that because I am notoriously a horrible judge of character on these things, as we already just went through. Like we just discussed the Rogan thing. I gave him credit for way too long. For Jimmy Dore, I gave him credit for way too long. For all these people. But what I would say is this. I really hope that that Cenk or Ana or both, they talk to Sam Cedar or they talk to
I would love that.
John Iadarola and Francesca Fiorentini, because it really does. They seem to think, as you sort of pointed out, that anybody who disagrees with them on certain issues, it truly is just a grifter and they're a liar. And, whether it's crime issues or trans issues, they seem to think like everybody who's on the left genuinely loves crime, right? This is something I've heard from them. So it's like, I want them to talk to somebody who can rep that counter argument, who they respect enough to give them the space to make the argument, right?
I don't know who that would be that they respect enough now, because when Cenk went on Hassan's show and ranted and raved, he said he's the left and all these other people aren't the left. So I don't know if there's anybody on the left that Cenk Uygur respects. Maybe he respects people on the right now. I don't know. But two things about this. I don't understand why they are so thin-skinned. They still have a massive audience in terms of the number of, they have millions of subscribers. They would have to be making a lot of money. I don't see how they wouldn't be with advertising and with memberships and all of that. So I don't know why they don't just ignore the criticism. So one, Cenk and Ana both seem to be very thin-skinned. And the other is, I think about all the years that Cenk Uygur talked about the Democrats, Obama and Biden and other Democrats being weak and trying to reach across the aisle to work with Mitch McConnell and these other Republicans, thinking that they were going to be able to compromise with them. And then over and over again, the Republicans would just kick them in the teeth. Cenk talked about that almost every day, it seemed like, for years. And now it seems that Cenk and Ana are following that same pattern with these right-wing grifters and these right-wing pundits, where they're now reaching out to them and trying to find common ground with them. And they're going to do the same thing as Mitch McConnell and the Republicans in Congress. They're just going to kick them in the teeth. They're not going to care about them. They're not going to agree with them, other than if they bow down to Trump like all the right-wingers have done. So I don't really know what the game is here. I mean, maybe they are just grifters and they just think they're going to make money this way. I don't know that the right-wingers would ever truly accept them. Maybe they would. But let me know in the comments what you think about all of this, with what Kyle Kulinski is saying here. Do you think it's too late for Cenk and Ana in terms of being progressives? Are they going to just have to continue to move further and further to the right rather? And do you agree that they're maybe even worse than Dave Rubin? Let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe if you haven't done that so far. This is Chris on Culture. I will see you in the next video.